Okay, let's unpack this. For most people, I think a crystal is, a beautiful piece of geology, maybe something pretty for the shelf or jewelry.
Right, something aesthetically pleasing.
Exactly. But the resource we've really plunged into today, this detailed ecosystem, all centered around holistic well-being. It's from a platform, Crystals by Rob, and it presents something way more complex.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at crystals not just as these passive, pretty specimens, but as powerful, almost technical tools for an entire spiritual practice.
And that's what's really fascinating here, isn't it? We're not just talking about beliefs. We're looking at a whole comprehensive system.
Mm-hmm.
It's built entirely around this idea that crystals have these unique, maybe even measurable energetic properties.
And a long history of use, apparently.
Very ancient history, yeah. And this platform, it's not just selling stones. It merges the retail side with really extensive structured education and even these intensive high-level healing sessions.
Right. So our mission then for this deep dive has to be exploring how all these interconnected pieces, the shop, the learning materials, the services, how they define and maybe elevate this specific practice the source actually calls crystal witchcraft.
That's the core of it, crystal witchcraft. It's presented very seriously.
It really is. So our task for you listening is to take this huge menu of stuff, products, services, all these informational topics, including that big section on crystal witchcraft, and distill what are the actual key components, the technical bits, the energetic principles you'd need to grasp to go from just being curious to actually getting proficient.
Because it's clearly presented as a demanding discipline, not just picking up a pretty rock.
Definitely not.
It demands structure. And this whole framework, it seems to be built on a core philosophy, stated right there in their mission. Crystals are facilitators.
Facilitators.
Yeah, they don't just sit there. They actively facilitate healing, connection to what the source calls universal energies.
Mm-hmm. Universal energies.
Yeah.
That's a big concept.
It is. And that central idea, that's the operational bedrock, you could say.
Yeah.
But to actually use it, to leverage that potential, the practitioner needs to really master several distinct layers of knowledge first. It's not automatic.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then, like the 101 course.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get into crystal work seriously, if you want to practice this crystal witchcraft thing, you can't just, buy the pretty tools. You have to get the knowledge first.
Absolutely essential.
And the source material seems to lay out this necessary background pretty clearly. We can kind of break it down into what we might call the 3 pillars of knowledge.
That's a good way to put it. Pillars.
Yeah, and they seem to move you methodically, from the physical stone itself to how it's supposed to function spiritually or energetically.
That's absolutely right. And the first pillar has to be the grounding element, quite literally the geological properties of crystals.
Right, the science bit.
The science bit, exactly. You have to understand the physical stone,
Mm-hmm.
how it formed, its structure, any inclusions inside it, its hardness on the Mohs scale, all that stuff.
But why? Why is that so critical if the focus is energy?
Well, because in this system, the thinking is that the physical structure actually dictates the energetic pattern. It's not separate. So, for instance, a softer crystal, like maybe selenite compared to quartz, might need different cleansing methods. It might not handle water well.
Okay, practical handling.
Practical handling, yes, but also energetically. Or think about a crystal that formed under immense geological pressure. That physical history could mean it possesses this really deep inherent stability, energetically speaking. That stability impacts its output, how it feels, how it works.
I see. So understanding how it was made helps you understand why it might behave a certain way energetically.
Precisely. It's like knowing a knife is sharp versus knowing the type of steel in the forging process that allows it to hold that sharp edge. It tells you how to best use and maintain the tool.
Okay, that makes sense. So that geological foundation, that's pillar 1. Then this is complemented by the second pillar, the history of crystals.
Yes, the historical lineage. This is the contextual layer, looking at how crystals have been used across different cultures through different ages. It provides tradition, context.
And why does that matter for the modern practitioner? Is it just interesting background?
Well, it does 2 key things, I think, based on the source. First, it connects what you're doing now to this long, time-honored practice. It shows it's not just some, new age fad that popped up yesterday. There's weight behind it.
Is it legitimacy, maybe?
Legitimacy, and also, crucially, it often informs the traditional applications. So, for example, if you learn that, say, lapis lazuli was prized by Egyptian royalty for adornment and maybe spiritual insight, That tradition kind of imbues the stone in this practice with an energetic association of power or status or deep wisdom or protection in a ritual setting.
So history informs the meaning, the symbolism.
Exactly. This pillar adds depth and maybe encourages a more respectful approach to using the stones. You're tapping into something ancient.
Okay, geology, history. And then comes the third pillar, which sounds like the real linchpin for the energy worker. The metaphysical healing properties of stones.
This is it. This is where the physical facts from Pillar 1 and the historical context from Pillar 2 merge directly with the immediate spiritual or energetic application. This is the how-to manual.
Right. This is what the crystal does.
This is what it does, energetically speaking. This pillar defines the practical energy management, how a specific stone interacts with, say, the human energy field, or the chakras, or specific intentions you set, or even, as we'll get into later, specific physical organs according to this source.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so a serious practitioner following this system needs to understand not just that amethyst is a type of quartz, geologically speaking,
Pillar 1.
or that it was historically favored by bishops, maybe for sobriety or clarity.
Pillar 2.
Right, but precisely how its specific purple frequency is believed to interact with the crown chakra to potentially aid spiritual awareness or maybe even promote calmer sleep. That's the metaphysical property.
Pillar 3. Got it. Without that third piece, the first two are just interesting facts.
Academically interesting, maybe, but energetically kind of useless for the practice itself. You need all three working together.
Okay, so once you've got that knowledge base, the geology, history, metaphysics, then the learner moves into the first really essential technical application. The source calls this critical maintenance, crystal programming, and cleansing.
Yes, preparing the tools.
It sounds fundamental.
Oh, it's presented as absolutely non-negotiable, especially for anyone wanting to engage seriously in crystal witchcraft. If the crystal is your tool for focused energy work, it has to be energetically pure, and it needs to be dedicated to a specific task.
So cleansing first, what does that entail? What are you cleansing it from?
You're removing any prior energetic residue. Think about the journey that stone took to get to you. Mined, shipped, handled by who knows how many people. Maybe it was programmed for something else before.
Right, it could have picked up all sorts of vibes.
Exactly. All sorts of energetic clutter. If you skip cleansing, the source implies you risk working with muddled, conflicting, or potentially even lower frequency energies that aren't aligned with your intention. It contaminates the work.
Okay, so cleansing wipes the slate clean. Then what about programming? What's the technical function of programming a crystal within this system?
Programming is essentially setting the crystal's operational command. You're aligning the crystal's own inherent metaphysical properties, which you learned about in Pillar 3, with your specific desired intention for this particular piece of work.
So you're telling it what to do.
You're telling it what job to do, yes. Think of the crystal as maybe a powerful battery or an amplifier. Programming is like installing the specific software that dictates the frequency and the output of that power.
How is that actually done? Is it complicated?
The source suggests it's usually achieved through focused mental intention, often combined with visualization, maybe speaking the intention aloud while holding the stone. The key is focus and clarity. The effectiveness of any crystal witchcraft ritual seems to rely heavily on the crystal having a single, powerful, and very clear energetic mandate from the practitioner.
Okay, so knowledge first, then cleanse, then program. That seems like the starting workflow. Now, I'm curious about how this specific system of crystal work, fits in with the bigger picture presented on this platform. The source material clearly links crystal knowledge to other things they offer information on, like powerful self-healing, Reiki, and rune oracle reading.
And that integration piece is really key, I think, to understanding the scope of crystal witchcraft as presented here. It shows that crystals aren't necessarily seen as a standalone magic bullet. They're positioned more as potent accelerants or maybe focusing agents within other often established modalities.
Okay, like amplifiers again?
Exactly. Take Reiki, for instance. Reiki is a well-known Japanese system for channeling universal life force energy for healing, right?
Right, I've heard of it.
So if a practitioner is trained in Reiki, according to this source, they could use a specific crystal when they've cleansed and programmed, maybe placing it on a specific chakra or area of the body. The crystal then acts like a precision lens, focusing and perhaps amplifying that Reiki energy right where it's needed. It could make the healing session much more targeted, potentially more powerful.
Okay, so it enhances an existing practice, What about something different, like the rune oracle reading? How would that connect to the physical tools, the crystals?
Well, think about divination systems like runes, or tarot for that matter. They're typically used for gaining insight, guidance, maybe confirming the nature of an issue or blockage.
Right, figuring out what's going on.
Exactly. So the runes might tell you what intention you need to set for your healing work, or what kind of energy is needed, or what specific blockage needs addressing, maybe in yourself or a client.
Okay, the diagnosis? Sort of.
The diagnosis, or the guidance. Then, once you have that information from the runes, the crystal, properly cleansed and programmed with that specific intention, provides the power, the energetic tool, to actually execute the corresponding task, to do the work the runes indicated.
Ah, I see. So the runes provide the what and the why, and the crystals provide the how, the energy to make it happen.
That seems to be the model, yes. The ecosystem ensures the practitioner ideally have the tools, crystals, perhaps an energy source or method like Reiki, and the necessary insight or guidance, like runes, to apply the practice effectively and hopefully ethically. It's presented as a very holistic, integrated approach to mastering energy work.
So it sounds like foundational proficiency really means putting it all together. You need the geological, historical, and metaphysical knowledge,
The 3 pillars,
plus the technical skill to cleanse and program the stone properly,
the maintenance.
and understanding how it all operates within a recognized framework, maybe involving energy channeling like Reiki or guidance systems like runes. That level of preparation, it definitely moves us beyond just holding a single stone and hoping for the best.
Absolutely. It moves us into the realm of structured, intentional energy manipulation.
Right. And once the practitioner gets a handle on working with the individual stone, cleansed, programmed, understood the next logical step, and really a cornerstone of this crystal witchcraft idea seems to be learning how to use multiple tools together to amplify, contain, and structure energy in more complex ways.
Okay, so moving from a single tool to, like, building something with them.
Exactly. Moving from a single flashlight beam to constructing, say, an entire power grid or a focused laser. And that's where we see crystal grids and bowls come into play quite prominently in the source material.
Ah, yes, grids. I've seen pictures of those. Elaborate patterns of crystals. They can be quite beautiful, yeah. And the source doesn't just mention them casually. It actually lists specific services involving grids. Things like aura balancing, crystal grids, distant healing, and distant chakra crystal grids healing.
Distant healing? That seems significant. How does a physical grid of stones here affect someone over there?
Well, the emphasis on grids for distant work is very informative about how they're believed to function in this system. A crystal grid is basically set up as a highly stable, energetic circuit board.
Okay, a circuit board. I can picture that.
Yeah. You typically arrange multiple crystals, usually a central larger focuses stone, surrounded by supporting stones, often points or towers directing energy into specific geometric patterns. Sacred geometry often plays a big role here.
Why the geometry?
Because the idea is that the precision of the pattern itself, the geometric relationships between the stones, is what allows the grid to amplify the collective energy and channel it towards a very specific fixed purpose. And crucially, it allows it to project or sustain that focused energetic frequency over physical distance, supposedly with minimal loss of power.
So the grid holds the focus and the power, and the geometry acts like an antenna array beaming the signal, almost like spiritual Wi-Fi directed at a specific person or place.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually, spiritual Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
The practitioner programs the whole grid, often using that central master crystal to hold the core intention, and then the surrounding crystals amplify, stabilize, and broadcast that signal continuously.
Continuously, so it keeps working even when the practitioner isn't actively focused on it.
That seems to be the idea. It allows for sustained energetic work without the person having to actively channel energy every single moment. It's energy management through sacred structure, through geometry.
Okay, that's fascinating. Now, how does that focused projected energy of a grid contrast with the other structure mentioned? Intention bowls. The source has a whole blog category dedicated to creating intention bowls. What are they for?
That's a really nice contrast to draw out. If the grid projects energy outwards, the bowl seems more about collecting, containing, maybe protecting energy inwards.
Containing, okay.
Yeah. And the source notes that these bowls are often shaped from stone, crafted from various gemstones themselves, like a rose quartz bowl or an onyx bowl. This means the bowl itself has its own metaphysical properties that add to its function.
Ah, so the container contributes too.
Exactly. An intention bowl suggests a more ritualized use of containment, maybe for purposes like charging smaller items placed inside it like jewelry, water, or other smaller stones, or perhaps for ritually collecting abundance energy, or maybe shielding a specific written intention from outside negative influences.
So if the grid is the laser beam sending energy out,
The bowl is more like the consecrated well, holding energy safely within, or maybe a charging station, different function, different structure.
and that idea form dictating function brings us right to the crucial discussion of shape itself. The geometry of the individual tool matters deeply in crystal witchcraft, doesn't it? Which is why there's that dedicated topic. Properties of the shapes of crystals.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. This isn't just about aesthetics. The way energy is believed to interact with and flow through a stone is seen as entirely dependent on how it's cut and formed.
Okay, so let's look at some examples from the source. Spheres. It says they're renowned for unique metaphysical properties and healing capabilities. What's special about the sphere shape?
A sphere represents wholeness, completion, unity. Think about it. It has no beginning or end, no corners, no termination points.
Smooth all around.
Exactly. So the idea is that energy radiates outward from a sphere gently and evenly in all directions. There's no focus point. This makes spheres supposedly ideal for things like general environmental healing, just putting good vibes out into a room, or for meditation, holding it to feel that sense of completeness, or maybe even for scrying, where you want an unbiased, even energy flow to gaze into.
Okay, gentle ambient energy. Then we shift to pretty much the opposite, the highly focused shapes, towers or crystal points. The source calls them crystal points and notes they're highly regarded.
Towers or points are the workhorses, the directional antennas of the crystal world in this practice. Their shape is all about channeling energy. Typically, they have a wider base that gathers or grounds energy, and then the pointed tip, the termination, directs, amplifies, and channels that energy outward in a focus beam. Or you could potentially invert them, point down, maybe to draw energy inward towards the base.
So they're essential for that grid work we talked about.
Absolutely indispensable for grids because they let the practitioner aim the energy with precision. If you're doing very targeted work, like sending protective energy to one specific person, or trying to clear stagnant energy from just one corner of a room, you'd likely use a point to focus that intention, like a spiritual arrow.
Okay, points for precision. What about shapes that aren't so geometrically perfect, like freeform crystals? The source mentions these too.
Right, freeform. As the name suggests, these are crystals that have been polished but retain a more natural, organic shape. They haven't been forced into a strict geometric pattern like a sphere or a point.
So they're more like smooth, irregular lumps.
Sometimes, yeah, polished, but following the stone's original contours more closely. And that's important because it suggests a different kind of energy flow, maybe less prescriptive, more flowing, more organic.
How might that be useful?
Well, for a new practitioner, maybe a freeform crystal might actually feel less intimidating. You don't have to worry so much about precise angles or directionality. The source seems to imply its energy integrates the stone's raw, natural vibration more directly. It might allow for a gentler, perhaps more forgiving kind of energy channeling compared to the really disciplined focus you need for a tower. It connects you back to the inherent, unmanipulated energy of the earth itself.
Interesting. So different shapes for different jobs, different energy styles. Okay, we've covered the individual tools, the maintenance, cleansing, programming, and the structures, grids, bowls, and the importance of shape. Now, how do we tie all these elements together into the central theme? Crystal witchcraft. This is a major category on the site, presented as an extensive series. It implies a whole methodology.
Exactly. To practice crystal witchcraft effectively, as presented here, you need more than just the tools and the basic principles. You need a framework for application. And the source material points to two key components for this framework: the informational page on creating your Book of Shadows and the blog category focusing on rituals.
Okay, Book of Shadows. That sounds very traditional witchcraft. Is it just like a diary?
It's much more than just a diary, according to the context here. It's presented as the essential documentation and personal guide for the practice. It's where the practitioner meticulously records their specific intentions, the crystals they used, how they arranged them, maybe grid diagrams, the timing of the rituals, like moon phases, what happens, the outcomes, any insights gained, and any adjustments needed for next time.
So it's like a lab notebook for magic.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
A lab notebook for spiritual or energetic work. It transforms the practice from just random guesswork or hoping for the best into something potentially more systematic, maybe even scientific in its own way, a repeatable discipline.
And why is that so important?
Because without that record keeping, how do you learn? How do you refine your technique? How do you know what actually worked? The source implies that an incomplete or neglected book of shadows leads to an inconsistent, less effective practice. And it probably makes it impossible to reliably scale up to the really high-level, complex, energetic work that we're going to discuss later. You need that data.
Okay, the Book of Shadows provides the personalized record and methodology. Then the rituals category that provides the actual how-to steps for conducting the work.
That seems to be the function, yes. Ritual provides the structure, the formalized sequence of actions that creates a focused, maybe even sacred, container for the energy exchange you're trying to facilitate with the crystals.
What kind of steps are involved in these rituals?
The source mentions things that sound like standard ceremonial practices, maybe casting a protective circle, invoking specific energies or guides, perhaps related to the crystal's properties or the intention, paying attention to timing based on astrological or lunar cycles, and then, crucially, energetically closing or sealing the work properly afterwards.
So the crystal witchcraft practice isn't just programming a stone, it's integrating that programmed stone into a formal, structured ceremony.
Precisely. It's the intentional, structured combination of the crystal's known metaphysical properties, that's Pillar 3 knowledge, channeled through specific shapes and structured arrangements like grids or bowls, and then enacted according to these established, documented in your Book of Shadows, ceremonial procedures or rituals. The crystals are the active agents within that ritual framework, holding, amplifying, and helping to manifest the ritualized intention.
Wow. It really paints a picture of something quite scholarly, very organized, a spiritual discipline that demands both deep knowledge and really rigorous documented practice. Okay, moving from these general principles and structures, let's zoom in a bit. Let's look at what the source tells us about some specific, maybe more specialized tools that really demonstrate the depth of this system.
Yeah, this is where we move from the general theory, crystals have energy, to specific, actionable intelligence for the practitioner. A casual user might just say, oh, quartz is good for energy. But the advanced practitioner, according to this source, needs to know that this specific type of crystal, like actinolite, is believed to target, say, the spleen or the immune system. The collections list on the site gives us some of these precise technical details.
Okay, let's start with that one you mentioned, actinolite. It seems interesting because the description really blurs the line between energetic work and physical health. The source says it strengthens the immune system and stimulates kidney, liver, and spleen function. That's very specific physically.
It is very specific, isn't it? And that's a powerful statement about the holistic view embedded in this system. It suggests that certain crystals resonate at frequencies that are believed to directly support the physical body's major systems, particularly detoxification and maintenance organs like the kidney, liver, spleen.
So actinolite isn't just a vague spiritual aid. It's positioned as a physiological support tool within this framework.
That seems to be the implication, yes. And think about why that might be important. If someone is engaging in really high-frequency energetic work, or maybe doing something intense like the entity removal mentioned later, the physical body needs to be strong enough, resilient enough, to handle those energetic shifts. So, stones like actinolite could be seen as essential maintenance tools for the practitioner's own physical vessel.
That makes sense. Keep the hardware running smoothly.
Exactly. And the fact that the source actually lists a specific product, actinolite, in quartz crystals large for $6 USD, it emphasizes that this isn't just abstract theory. It's presented as an accessible, practical tool you can acquire and use for this very focused healing purpose.
Okay, that deep physiological specificity is interesting. How does that contrast with something like agate, which the source defines more broadly as a foundational tool grounding, stabilizing, and balancing?
Agates are presented as the energetic anchors, the stabilizers. Their primary role seems to be providing foundational stability, which is crucial. Well, think about it. If a practitioner is going to attempt some of the really high-frequency work mentioned later, like those Arcturian attunements, grounding is an absolute prerequisite. You can't safely or effectively work with high energies if you're not firmly anchored.
Right, you just get spaced out or overwhelmed.
Exactly. You could end up feeling anxious, dizzy, ungrounded, spacey. So foundational stones like agate provide that necessary stability, that connection to the earth energy, before you try to reach for higher frequencies. Without it, the advanced work is potentially ineffective or maybe even energetically risky.
And the source mentions the complexity of different agate types.
Yes, and that's important too. It notes there are many varieties: moss agate, blue lace agate, fire agate, Botswana agate, and so on. And the serious practitioner needs to understand the nuances. While the primary function across the family might be grounding and stabilizing, Each specific variety might offer subtle secondary benefits, maybe related to its color energy like blue lace for communication or other specific properties. So it requires detailed study beyond just the general agate category.
Okay, so agate for grounding. Moving on to energetic cleanliness, we have selenite. The source really emphasizes this one as a primary purifying crystal known specifically for this property.
Selenite is like the ultimate energetic maintenance worker in the crystal toolkit described here. We talked earlier about how crucial cleansing other stones is, removing that residue.
Right, wiping the slate clean.
Well, selenite is presented as unique because it's believed to have such a high, pure vibrational frequency that it acts like an energetic solvent. It can supposedly cleanse other crystals, especially maybe denser or lower vibration ones, just by placing them on or near a piece of selenite.
So selenite cleans other stones. Does it need cleansing itself?
Interestingly, many sources, including likely this one implicitly, suggest selenite is self-cleansing due to its high vibration. It doesn't hold on to negativity. Its energy is often linked to the higher chakras, like the crown chakra, making it ideal for purification and bringing in light. It offers a way to keep your tools energetically pure without always needing more complex ritual cleansing like water, salt, or smoke, which might not be suitable for all stones anyway. Maintaining that purity is essential for clear ritual work.
Okay, selenite for purification. Then we find these unique structures, geodes. The source highlights their specialized function as providing grounding energy and helping individuals connect. That seems a bit different from agate's grounding.
Geodes are fascinating structures, aren't they? That hollow cavity inside, lined with all those tiny crystals pointing inwards, it naturally suggests containment and maybe amplification within that contained space.
Right, like a little crystal cave.
Exactly. And while some systems might emphasize their amplification properties, it's interesting that this resource specifically focuses on their function for grounding and facilitating connection.
How might that work?
Perhaps the contained, protected energetic environment inside the geode helps to consolidate and localize the grounding energy, making it feel very focused, very accessible, maybe especially for someone who struggles to feel centered or connected within their own body or to the earth. It's like creating a stable, protected, energetic womb you can tap into.
A grounding sanctuary. Interesting take. We also see included quartz listed. The definition given is pretty straightforward, varieties of quartz that contain inclusions. But how does that simple geological fact translate into a practical application for the crystal witch?
This is a really critical detail that highlights the technical depth of the practice. Those inclusions, they could be other minerals, like the actinolite we mentioned, or maybe bubbles of water, air, or other materials trapped inside the quartz as it grew. They aren't seen as flaws or defects.
They're features, not bugs.
Exactly. There are additional properties. So, quartz with actinolite inclusions takes on the specific functions associated with the actinolite, potentially amplified or modified by the surrounding quartz matrix. Quartz with tourmaline inclusions, tourmalinated quartz, combines quartz's amplification with tourmaline's protective qualities.
So the practitioner needs to identify both the main crystal and the inclusion.
Absolutely. You need to understand that the inclusion fundamentally changes the stone's overall energy profile. It requires a really detailed, nuanced knowledge of both the host crystal, the quartz, and the embedded material to properly understand its potential and program it effectively. It's multi-layered energy work, not just dealing with a single substance.
Okay, that adds complexity. Finally, in this section, let's shift our attention from specific minerals to how crystals might align with bigger, broader concepts. The source has a specialized collection of moons. Crystal moons, presumably moon-shaped crystals.
Yes, likely crystals carved into crescent or full moon shapes.
And the description introduces an archetypal layer. The moon is explicitly presented as the archetype of the divine feminine. What does that signify for the practice?
This is where the metaphysical application really expands beyond just physical support or simple energy direction. It starts integrating these large, powerful, cosmic or spiritual concepts, archetypes.
The divine feminine, what does that entail energetically?
Typically, the divine feminine archetype relates to qualities like receptivity, intuition, emotional depth, cyclical patterns, nurturing, creativity, the subconscious, the mysteries.
Okay, a whole cluster of related ideas.
Right. And the source suggests that crystals can be chosen, maybe purchased as these moon shapes, and then utilized based specifically on their resonance with this vast archetypal energy.
Right.
So if a practitioner is doing, say, deep shadow work, exploring subconscious patterns, or trying to enhance their intuition using their book of shadows and specific rituals.
They might choose a moon-shaped crystal or a crystal associated with lunar energy.
Exactly. They would select crystals that align vibrationally with this lunar feminine energy, maybe moonstone, selenite, labradorite perhaps, to enhance the specific receptive intuitive channeling needed for that kind of deep internal work. It adds another layer of serious intentional complexity to selecting and using your tools.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from the micro detail, like actinolite specific effect on the kidney, all the way up to the macro archetype, connecting with the divine feminine through a moon-shaped crystal. That really illustrates the potential depth and breadth of this system.
It really does.
And that depth logically leads us into the final and perhaps deepest level of practice outlined in the source material, the advanced energetic modalities and attunements offered as services.
Right. If the first three sections kind of define the foundational knowledge, the tools, the methods, the specific materials of crystal witchcraft, then this section, focusing on the advanced energy healing sessions, really defines the potential upper limits of the application, at least as presented by this platform. These services show a really serious depth of professional practice being offered.
And we see that sophistication right away with the integration of established systems. Reiki integration seems key, evidenced by the service called Crystal Reiki and the fact that there's a whole dedicated blog category just on Reiki.
Yeah, Crystal Reiki is that operational synthesis we touched on earlier. It explicitly combines the structured, established energy channeling techniques of traditional Reiki, that system of channeling universal life force energy, with the focused, amplifying, and directing power of the crystals. The crystal essentially becomes the specific energetic lens or tool through which that powerful life force energy is directed during a session.
Allowing for more precision.
That's the idea. Surgical precision, potentially. Making the healing session more targeted, perhaps more efficient. It's presented as an efficiency multiplier for traditional Reiki work.
Okay, enhancing Reiki. Then, moving to what sounds like an even higher frequency level, we encounter multiple services that link crystals specifically with angelic energies. We see angelic crystal energy attunements mentioned, and there's even a product example, an angelic amethyst energy attunement listed for $30 USD. And this connects to their blog on crystals and angels.
Right. So first, what's an attunement? In energy work contexts, an attunement is generally understood as a kind of energetic initiation. It's a process designed to permanently connect the recipient's energy field to a specific, usually high-frequency, spiritual lineage or energy source.
Like tuning a radio to a specific station?
That's a common analogy, yes.
Yeah.
Tuning you into the frequency of, in this case, angelic energy. The purpose is often to enable the person to more easily channel that specific energy for guidance, protection, or accelerated healing for themselves or others.
And the crystal's role in that attunement.
The crystal likely acts as the stable anchor, the conduit, maybe even the amplifier for that high-frequency connection during the attunement process. It helps establish and stabilize the link. This implies that within this crystal witchcraft framework, the practice can facilitate communication or connection with celestial entities or energies, using the stones as reliable receivers and transmitters for energies or messages that might otherwise be too subtle or high vibrational to easily perceive or integrate.
Okay, connecting to angelic frequencies via crystals. Now here's where the practice seems to move beyond general spiritual awareness and into really specific, complex, almost technical sounding territory. We see listings for unique, higher frequency services like the Arcturian Reiki Attunement 420D frequency certification.
Yeah, the specificity there is pretty astonishing, isn't it?
420D frequency certification, what does that even mean?
Well, Arcturian is a term often used in certain spiritual circles to refer to what are believed to be very high vibrational, highly evolved, benevolent extraterrestrial consciousnesses or energies, often associated with advanced healing and spiritual technology.
Okay, so we're talking ET energy systems now.
Potentially, yes, within this belief system. And then adding 420D frequency certification, that designation, using a number and D, possibly for dimension or density, strongly indicates this is viewed not just as a generic spiritual practice, but as a highly stratified technical system of energetic training and work.
Like different levels or bands of energy.
Exactly. It suggests that energy isn't just this vague, fluffy concept. It's treated almost like physics, with specific measurable frequencies or dimensions. The certification part implies the practitioner must be trained, tested, and certified to work safely and effectively within that specific high-frequency segment of the universal energy spectrum. This is far beyond just general spiritual healing or basic Reiki.
That level of specificity is,
Yeah.
incredible. But maybe the most intense-sounding offering we saw listed is the Christic Arcturian Chakra Unification Attunement and Entity Removal. That title alone is packed, and it sounds like really high-stakes territory.
It really does. That one title pulls together several extremely advanced and critical concepts within this type of energy work framework.
Okay, break it down for us. First part, Christic Arcturian Chakra Unification. What's that about? We usually hear about chakra balancing.
Right. Most energy healing focuses on chakra balancing, ensuring each energy center is clear, spinning correctly, and operating in harmony with the others. Chakra unification, however, implies a much more sophisticated, higher-level goal. It's not just about balancing the 7 individual chakras. It's aiming for their complete integration, maybe even merging them into a single, unified pillar of light or energy field.
Wow. What would be the purpose of that?
The idea is usually achieving a profound state of spiritual alignment, consciousness expansion, or a connection to higher dimensional energies represented here by Christic, often related to Christ consciousness or crystalline energy structures, and Arcturian. It's presented as a state far beyond simple balance. It's about fundamental energetic restructuring.
Okay, that's huge in itself, but then there's the second part of that service title, and entity removal. This seems like, well, a major claim and a potentially serious undertaking.
It absolutely is. This raises the stakes enormously.
Does the source material give any context, like warnings, prerequisites, who should be doing this, especially since the crystals are supposedly the active agents here?
While the service listing itself might not detail all prerequisites, the implication is that undertaking entity removal requires absolute mastery of oneself, one's energy, and one's tools, the crystals. Entity removal in these contexts means that the practitioner believes they can identify, interact with, and clear energetic attachments, influences, or blockages that they define or perceive as non-beneficial entities or external negative influences impacting a person's energy field.
That sounds intense and potentially risky.
Highly intense. And yes, potentially risky if not done with extreme care, skill, and protection. The crystal in this scenario would need to be functioning at its absolute peak performance, impeccably cleansed, perfectly programmed for the specific task, probably charged within a grid or ritual structure, and integrated into that high-frequency system, like the Christic Arcturian attunement, to provide the necessary power, clarity, and energetic authority.
Authority?
Yes, the energetic authority or sovereignty needed to essentially enforce energetic boundaries and facilitate the removal or clearing of the unwanted influence. This type of advanced practice, as presented, would demand absolute energetic hygiene, keeping oneself and one's tools clear, rigorous self-discipline, strong boundaries, and probably significant training and experience. Failure isn't just being ineffective. The implication is it could potentially lead to energetic backlash or liability for the practitioner or even the client.
Okay. It really makes sense now why that foundational knowledge, the pillars, the cleansing, the programming, the Book of Shadows, the rituals, why it all has to be so strong and meticulous if this is the kind of advanced work that's potentially on the table at the end of the curriculum.
Exactly. The crystal witchcraft practitioner operating at this level is essentially positioned as performing a kind of spiritual surgery. Very serious stuff.
Right. And alongside these really deep attunements and potentially heavy-duty clearings, the site also lists a variety of other supporting practices. These seem to reinforce that holistic, multi-tool approach to the energetic system.
Yes, the system presented is comprehensive, acknowledging that the human energy field is complex and might respond to different types of vibrational input. For instance, we see the Angel Tuning Forks sound healing session.
Tuning forks, like for music.
A similar concept, but these are usually calibrated to specific frequencies believed to correspond to planets, chakras, or in this case, angelic energies. This ties directly back to the sound healing educational blogs mentioned on the site.
So using sound frequency alongside crystal frequency.
Exactly. It shows a belief that sound, which is a pure, measurable vibration, is another major tool for shifting energetic resonance, just like crystals. Sound waves can travel through the body and the energy field, potentially breaking up stagnant energy patterns or blockages quickly. Then, perhaps, the crystals can come in to clear the debris and stabilize the new, healthier frequency.
Okay, sound and crystals working together. We also see aura balancing and color therapy, which you mentioned connect back to the Aura's blog category that teaches about the meanings of different colors in the aura.
Right. In this kind of framework, the color of a stone, or the color perceived in someone's aura, isn't just visual. It's seen as a specific frequency signature. So if an aura assessment may be done intuitively or with tools, shows the aura looks murky, or has deficiencies in certain colors, like maybe weak blue in the throat chakra area, suggesting communication issues, or excesses, like maybe too much agitated red indicating burnout or anger.
Then the practitioner uses color to fix it.
They might use color therapy techniques, perhaps projecting colored light, or, very relevant here, they would select specific crystals whose color resonates with the frequency needed to address that imbalance. So, using blue stones like sodalite or blue lace agate for the throat, or calming green stones like aventurine for excess red. It's presented as precise frequency matching using color as the guide.
Precise.
Okay.
And finally, we see methods for guidance and self-defense cropping up again. Things like pendulum reading and that essential-sounding maintenance service. Energetic protection from negative energy session.
Yes. The pendulum reading reinforces the idea that divination is critical, especially when dealing with complex issues like potential entity interference or deciding which high-level attunement is appropriate. You need clear, objective, maybe non-ego-driven guidance. The pendulum is one tool for getting that yes, no, or directional guidance.
To know where to aim the energy work.
Precisely. And then the energetic protection session. This is absolutely paramount, just like the initial cleansing of tools. If you are regularly engaging in deep energetic work, especially anything involving high-frequency contacts like Arcturian energy, or potentially confrontational work like entity clearing, the source implies you need robust, reliable methods for sealing and protecting your own energetic system as well as the physical space you work in.
And the crystals would be key to that protection.
Oh, absolutely. Crystals like black tourmaline, obsidian, smoky quartz, or specific programmed crystals would likely play a central role in constructing, maintaining, and reinforcing that energetic shield or protective boundary around the practitioner and their working space. It's ongoing maintenance for energetic safety. #OutTagOutro.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive has really shown us that the path of crystal witchcraft, at least as it's defined and laid out by this particular resource, is incredibly technical. It's highly structured. It's presented as a full-fledged, multi-layered energetic discipline that seems to require really serious commitment. It's definitely not just a casual hobby.
That is absolutely the core takeaway, I think. If we were to summarize the necessary components for you, the learner, aiming for real proficiency based on this material, crystal witchcraft here requires, first, a mastery of geological knowledge. You have to understand the physical tool.
Pillar 1.
Then, metaphysical intent, which is learned and applied through ritualized programming and consistent cleansing.
Pillars 3, plus maintenance.
Right. And then structure. Using geometry, think crystal grids, the shapes of points, and formal documentation, that meticulous record keeping in a book of shadows.
Pillar 2, history informs meaning, plus the ritual framework.
Exactly. And then all that fundamental knowledge and practice gets applied in potentially very advanced energetic healing settings, whether that means targeting specific organs with precision stones, like that actinolite example, or engaging in incredibly complex high-level energetic work like those specific 420D Arcturian attunements, or even entity removal.
Yeah. It really shows that being well-informed about crystals, in this context, means understanding so much more than just their inherent properties. It's about the specific methods like knowing to use points for focused energy or spheres for ambient energy, and understanding the broader energetic context like how to integrate Reiki or work within these advanced cosmic systems like the Arcturian lineages mentioned.
And if we connect that back to the bigger picture presented by the platform, the entire site really positions crystals as the central linchpin for a complete holistic journey. It's offering an entire ecosystem for what you might call the modern energetic worker.
An ecosystem, yeah.
It encompasses physical support, like with actinolite,
Yeah.
structured spiritual awakening through attunements and practice, and emotional well-being, perhaps through grounding or heart chakra work. It seems designed to provide everything necessary to potentially move someone from being a curious beginner all the way up to being a highly certified advanced practitioner.
With the crystals serving as the constant thread, the dedicated technical instruments guiding literally every single step of that journey.
That's how it appears, yes. The instruments of the craft.
And that structural necessity, the need for the Book of Shadows, the rituals, the precise programming, it really highlights the need for consistent practice and maintaining energetic clarity. The path to this level of mastery is clearly presented as rigorous, demanding real attention to detail.
Absolutely. And, that leads to one final point for you, the listener, to maybe consider, based on everything we've reviewed here.
Okay.
We've seen that the advanced practitioner, according to this source, deals with some really high-stakes concepts. Entity removal, specialized high-frequency attunements, the need for total energetic hygiene. Now, the source material also lists space clearing as a standard informational topic, just one among many.
Right, like clearing the energy of your home or workspace.
Exactly. So, the question to mull over is this. If the crystals are indeed the essential tools for this kind of spiritual surgery, for maintaining high vibration, for protection, does the source imply, maybe subtly, that not performing regular detailed maintenance like space clearing, does that just lower the effectiveness of your practice? Or could it actively create an energetic liability, a vulnerability for the practitioner, for their clients, and for the sanctity of their sacred working space itself?
So, is space clearing just good housekeeping, or is it critical infrastructure for safety and efficacy at this level?
That's the question. How essential is that ongoing energetic maintenance to effectively practice crystal witchcraft safely and powerfully within the framework we've explored today? Something to keep clean, perhaps, as you continue your own deep dive.